Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the manufacturing marketing show. Subtitle Conveying Your Message. I'm your co-host, Selim Malouf, and with me is Chris Carolyn. Hey, Chris.
Howdy.
Nobody's going to notice that we've been together for the past four hours on a call prepping for this, so. So, today's episode is all right. Let me start again. What are we doing today, Chris, in Satisfactory?
We are checking out Salim's sweet build. Tier 4,
anyone,
I think it is.
Yeah, anyone who's seen the last episode has noticed that we're playing a video game as a background to our conversations. This is Satisfactory, first-person 3D factory building game by Coffee Stain Studios. If you're interested in games like Minecraft, but would like a more realistic aesthetic and you enjoy doing automation builds, I strongly suggest you check it out on Steam and on the Epic Game Store. But we're here mostly to talk about marketing. Is that right, Chris?
That's the idea.
Yeah. By the way, I am I'm doing this as, this is like a quote unquote live practice.
All good.
I can chop these up, but hopefully when our audience becomes in the hundreds of thousands, then we'll be the world class hosts that we want to be, right?
That's absolutely right.
All right. So the title of today's episode is "Marketing to Marketers, Easy Mode?" ? And the reason why I want to talk about this today is a lot of the times when us marketers are going about learning from our other marketing peers about new strategies and tactics when it comes to B2B marketing especially, a lot of these tactics come from posts on LinkedIn. And a lot of these marketers usually work in SaaS companies who are building products that help marketers do their jobs better. But every time we try to package those strategies and try to implement them in our industrial world, we sometimes find ourselves at an impasse because we're trying to talk to industrial leaders who mostly are scientists, engineers who left their previous companies because they believed they could do it better. So we're trying to talk to engineers and scientists and mostly technical people and trying to tell them that these new marketing strategies work. We just got to try them. They come back to us and say, but why haven't other companies in our industry jumped on these strategies yet? Chris knows I'm an industrial engineer who has worked both as a designer also as an application engineer. And I have enough insight on how engineers buy. And through my learning journey in marketing, I also have consumed a lot of marketing content on LinkedIn from marketing thought leaders and learned from marketing peers that I have met on the platform. And a big part of this network is in SaaS and is doing some amazing things, some cutting edge things. But every time we package those conversations and try to present them to marketing leaders in the industrial space, we have faced some challenges. So I thought it would be an interesting idea if I can compare and contrast what makes a marketer tick and what makes an engineer tick, how we can talk to marketers. In fact, we're going to see that marketers kind of sell themselves, and how we can talk to engineers. So my first point of comparison is marketers are usually eager to learn about new tools that can improve performance. As an engineer, we usually scrutinize details and look for technical weaknesses. We're not really jumping on new tools without putting them through the ringer, making sure they're battle tested. Second point is marketers are motivated to be on the cutting edge of marketing tactics. AI right now, everybody's jumping on the bandwagon because if the train leaves the station and you're not on it, then you're behind. But engineers usually like to run extensive tests and pilot projects before adopting any new technology. Marketers are quick to adopt solutions that align with goals and demonstrate values. If it's like anywhere close to what you're trying to achieve in your organization, the tool makes sense, you'll jump on the opportunity to test it and buy it. But engineers usually want quantifiable performance data before making a purchase. Marketers also are willing to champion new solutions they believe in internally. They'll take on that challenge that we've took on multiple times, me and you, Chris. And but engineers usually are hesitant to change existing systems and processes without robust proof. So, like this is like a quick comparison that puts in context the differences between selling to marketers and selling to engineers and technical people. And quite frankly, as a marketer myself, I've seen this shift in thinking. I used to buy like an engineer when I was an application engineer, talking to vendors, talking to solution providers to try to implement their systems in my solutions. I used to think like this engineer persona. But the more I've been exposing myself to these cutting edge marketers working mostly in SaaS and trying new strategies and using new technologies and reaching these new heights that I couldn't even fathom, I'm starting to develop these marketer traits, and I kind of wish that a lot of engineers do the same kind of learning and education that I went through, to be able to catch up with us and be more eager to adopt these strategies. But they're not really successful engineers and building these amazing products if they hadn't adopted that meticulous, detail-driven, results-driven mentality that they have. So I'm interested in hearing your thoughts about this.
Yeah, so many thoughts on this. You did a good job of highlighting the differences and the struggles I've seen. Now, I'm not an engineer, but I did, make my way through the science ranks in school, ended up with a biology degree. Started out as a bench chemist in a industrial scientific industry of materials analysis for a long time. And I think for me, the toughest one to swallow is the, wants quantifiable performance data before making a purchase. Right. And a lot of the things that marketers bring to the table, especially as you mentioned, why isn't anybody else doing this? Because the whole industry's saying that. Like, that's why nobody else is doing it. And the first person that does it's going to reap the benefits. But, that first person is not going to be us. So yeah, it's an interesting challenge to think about, and it's hard to overcome.
So I have some talking points that I wanted to hit. Marketers' eagerness for innovation means they'll enthusiastically engage with you, be it on LinkedIn, be it on YouTube, Facebook, social media, on your website. They know where to go. They know that you want them to click on that form. They know how to find the information they need because they've built funnels just like we have. So we don't really need to push them down the funnel. They'll happily jump down the funnel themselves.
Yeah, and some of it's like respect for the good job that the post did, and you're a marketer too, and you want to give credit where credit is due. So it's like, hey, I saw it, I'm liking what you're doing. I love giving feedback in those situations because it's just so hard for us to get feedback sometimes. Stuff like that.
The second point I wanted to talk about is getting marketers on board first helps gain internal champions who can sell to more hesitant groups. This is more relevant when talking about marketing solutions sold to marketers. It might not be true when we're talking about other industries. But what are your thoughts as far as our experience when trying to engage with vendors of marketing solutions? I, for one, if I see the value, I become an extension of the sales teams of that vendor.
Yep. Internal champion is always helpful. It's another reason it's tough in industrial and manufacturing, because how often is there no marketer to champion? And then like you have no choice but to talk to the engineer or scientist first. Yep.
Then we've noticed it ourselves being surrounded by a extensive network of marketers on LinkedIn. Marketing peer-to-peer is really powerful. Marketers really trust recommendations from other marketers. But that also has another side of the coin, which is fear of missing out. Whenever we see other marketers, using new solutions, we become eager to test those ourselves, because if they're using it, then we must be using it, right? We must be figuring out, why are they using it? Do they know something we don't? So we feel like if we don't jump on the latest, marketing automation tool, then they'll get the edge. We'll lose out. Do you feel the same?
Yeah. It's there's a lot less. I mean, there's questions being asked. You don't always jump in like head first, but since we generally understand, the value props and all the, we're the ones with the problems that they're trying to solve. So it resonates with us a lot faster. And a lot of times when we're marketing to engineers, they don't fully understand their problems or all the ways they can fix it. So it's just another layer that's, it's hard to fear missing out if you don't understand what you're
missing out on. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So talking about engineers, you really feel like you must put in the work to prove value and build trust through trials, and trying to go through marketers to peer pressure them does not work. Like trying to get in with some other stakeholder in the company and asking them to tell the engineers what they should do usually never works, right?
Yeah.
We have to put in the work, go through all the documentation, all the, the sales sheets, the specs sheets, the white papers, the data analysis, the case study, and you better make sure it's not an anonymous case study that they could corroborate, or else they don't want a part of it, right?
Yeah. Oh man. And all this stuff, like, it's very easy to, as a salesperson or a marketer, to get yourself into an endless loop. Like if you don't set like verbal contracts up front, like, okay, I'm going to show you this and then you're going to do this for me, they'll always look for more proof if they can get it. So you'll just be in this endless loop, and they're building trust through trials. I mean, with a lot of the, products I brought in or concepts I brought in, like you need a certain level of engagement to show any kind of results that are worth it, because there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it, and generally, and without training, without expertise, it's very hard to get others in the organization engaged and doing the thing. And the lack of adoption, all that stuff impacts, whether or not this stuff is going to work out.
Yeah. In fact, the one thing that we keep hearing is when marketing to engineers, you have to quote unquote speak their language and try to lead with technical detail instead of trying to do aspirational messaging. I feel that usually rubs marketers the wrong way.
Well, yes and no. I mean, some of them really need to hear it, because there's definitely a bad side of aspirational messaging, and fluff and buzzwords and jargon and all that good stuff. That reminds me, I look forward to having a glossary of all those things on the website soon. But on the other side, talking to the engineers, they will take you all the way to the other side, where it's like, I don't want to hear anything aspirational or that could be, over promising, or, we can't prove, when in reality, no matter how technical you are, no matter how, engineering focused you are, you're still a human being. And there's so much behavioral data to show that the storytelling is important. Bringing people in, the emotional impact that you have. I'm sure there's some people out there, but it's probably hard to get emotional, about numbers and charts and all the stuff that they say they want to see, and that's all they want to see. So it definitely goes both ways, and the balance is definitely important.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to be passionate about a check valve for an oil pump,
I would imagine. I mean, I've never been in that situation, so.
Look, I have to admit, the reason why we're playing this game is because when I discovered this game first around a year ago, it kind of reignited a passion for industrial automation and my old job. I definitely, looking back, I'm very happy to have transitioned to marketing, but at least this game kind of reignites the fun parts of the job, where you can figure out automation problems. But yeah, it's hard sometimes to be passionate about which ball bearing is the right choice for this carriage that I'm building on a machine. Yeah. So we've been industrial marketers for a while. What are some tactics that you have used successfully to convince hesitant engineers to get on board and try a product?
I'll let you go first.
Well, particularly in the building materials industry, samples have been a huge success, because the samples of the material allows them to, like, the size of the sample was designed to give enough room to do all the testing required, all the code compliance testing, because they do not want to trust us at face value. We can put together a lot of sales sheets and data sheets, and we can have third-party certification, but if they don't do the tests themselves, they feel like they cannot trust the product. And as a result, putting a lot of efforts in our sample fulfillment has been a really great boon for that marketing team. It has successfully impacted sales. This is the, I won't call it the best way, but this is like the surest way to ensure that they have all the data they need, because they are able to extract it themselves. and that kind of skips the trust building phase. That's not always possible, but when you can give them the tools to do that testing themselves, has been really successful in that building materials industry.
I mean, I'd say you're not necessarily skipping it. It just is the trust building phase,
Yeah.
right? And I think with any human buying anything that they've never seen before, the show and tell, the showing of the thing is always going to be powerful and almost always a requirement, even like definitely, maybe more so with engineers and scientific minds, but um, you know, it the trust comes a lot faster when you can show people's faces, show the product, show the service in action. And that's where I think there's a lot of opportunity that people don't understand. Like, okay, well, I sell a $500,000, piece of equipment. I can't send out a free sample for that, right?
Yep.
And they don't want to come. They don't want to take their time to come to my manufacturing site. Well, if they're in the market, they do actually, by the way. But
Yeah.
um, but no, that's where videos come in. That's why video is so powerful. Just showing how the thing works, getting on camera. And actually, the space, that I've been in, that analytical X-ray space, they've actually been doing, they were doing online virtual demos, well before COVID start, because that was really the only way you could get a demonstration of the instrument. So I think like most buying cycles, if you can show it in various ways, obviously, if you can put it in their hands, that's the best. But similar to the free trials, and that's always going to help move people along.
By the way, if you look in front of your character, I dropped you two pieces of equipment. One of them is some bionic legs that help you run and jump faster. And another is a hook that you can use on cables to glide from one pole to another.
Oh man,
have you seen them?
I don't know. I probably ran right by that. I went to the lake and checked out the power supply. And
all right, I'll join you there. If
No,
you retrace your steps,
yeah.
you'll find them.
I'll go check them out.
So, as a advice to action, what are your thoughts on how to balance the need for technical content versus the traditional aspirational messaging content that marketing teams usually build? What is some good practical advice that we can give out on balancing those two?
Well, it's probably easy to say you likely need more aspirational messaging with all your text and specs. And obviously, we're not saying like put the fluffy language inside the spec table. But, leading up to the spec table, around it, I think there's lots of opportunities to take specs out of the table, and put them in context, that people can understand the value of the differentiation, instead of just look at our table and our product's better. But I just got done, listening to a book called How Minds Change by David McRaney. And, he highlighted the fact that the more intelligent somebody is, the harder it is to get them to move off of a strong opinion they might have. So that's where I think, case studies and other people like them getting value from the product are huge. And I think it's easy to, case studies are hard to get, right?
Yep.
But I think it's been more of a positioning issue. Like if you ask for a case study after they've bought, it's too late,
Yeah.
right? If you give them a case study, or if you ask for a case study in exchange for a discount, that's not the right way to go about it. Like maybe you get it, but you're getting it for the wrong reasons. And that's where, again, we could look to modern marketers to have figured this out already. If you're really delivering a lot of value, you bake it in to the sale, right? And it's that important too, that you really need to find a way to start getting these case studies and user stories, which again speaks to the new ways of doing things. Like if you suggest to a sales guy that you need to ask them to commit to a case study before they give us the money,
They'll freak out.
like, get the hell out of here. But it can be positioned in a way that says, hey, do you want to be recognized for your your use of this high quality product, or your transition into clean energy, or all these reasons. It's another way to say, hey, we're not, this is another benefit you're going to get from working with us. Like, we're going to highlight and promote the fact that you are forward thinking and yada yada yada. So there's ways to get it, but again, it's traditional sales process, and it's people are sensitive to asking for things they're not used to asking for.
In fact, was it 4 or 5 years ago when I was still application engineer? I was discussing with my manager that we did want to add a clause in our proposals that asks for, if you agree to this proposal, you're also agreeing to, one, us being able to take photos of our product installed and successfully running at your shop, and also we would like to use you as a case study in our products. But I did receive the same challenge of, well, we'll lose the the quote. So I believe this is a conversation has been happening in the background for years, but we haven't seen a lot of progress on that front.
Right. And if they're not going to buy your product because you're asking them to do a case study, probably not a good fit customer, or they're probably not going to buy the product anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I found these, the zipline thing.
Yeah.
How do I use it now?
So first, did you get both?
Yeah.
Yeah. You open your inventory, double click the legs. They'll auto equip on your legs.
Yep.
And double click the zip line, or put it in an empty hand slot.
Yep.
And all you have to do is jump towards a cable, like a power cable, and click left mouse button and keep it clicked, and it'll latch on.
I'm about to fall to my death, probably.
I should then make you a parachute. You have to keep it clicked.
Yep. All right.
Is it working?
It should work. I'm just afraid. Oh, I missed it. I didn't die. We're good.
Good. All right. So
what else we got to tap?
I think this week and the week before, there's been a lot of conversations around AI and AI use in marketing, especially. And I had some thoughts about it. I posted on LinkedIn, and a lot of people interacted with it. So we thought that, especially since we're both users of AI, I thought it would be a good idea to share our insights. And of course, as SEO specialists, we know that trending topics also help with reach. So we thought that Chris could show us some of his processes around AI and how we think about AI.
Yeah. Again, like, we're probably in the marketing echo chamber, hearing about AI as much as we are. I think this is probably another tool that it's going to be easy for industrial manufacturers to sleep on. Like, I found an article about AI for manufacturing, and it was all about, like, the manufacturing process and production, and nothing like we've been talking about on the content side and marketing side. But at the end of the day, it's just another tool. And those that learn how to work and use the tool effectively will outpace those who do not. There's definitely going to be a lot of shifts. We don't know where exactly, but a lot of admin activities, all the stuff that you think could be, you thought forever that could be automated by AI. Well, those are going to be the first things to go. But there's lots of upside for those. There's human elements to a lot of the things that we do. And those that figure out how to use that piece with AI effectively are going to, blast ahead. And we're already starting to see resumes, with AI capabilities, listed.
Prompt engineers.
Not resumes, but job descriptions, right?
Yeah.
They're going to start, just like you need CRM knowledge, you're going to need AI and LLM knowledge.
Yeah.
So I wanted to highlight, AI right now is really all about like understanding when to use it and when not to use it. And I know most websites, industrial and marketing and manufacturing, a big miss for them is having a knowledge base on the website. Even as simple as glossaries, short how-tos. It doesn't have to be product specific. It doesn't have to be your business specific. But I think this helps with the common problem of the curse of knowledge, right? Assuming that your buyer or customer comes to your website and knows everything that you're talking about, like the importance of getting to common language and helping educate the buyer. I think it's important to add things like glossaries and knowledge bases that can serve them along their journey. And there's a lot of tools out there. What you're seeing now is Claude.
We're seeing Claude.
Yeah.
So I'm a user of Claude, and you're a user of Claude, but a lot of the AI advice, especially around LinkedIn and TikTok and YouTube, everybody's talking about OpenAI and their version ChatGPT. Can you tell us why Claude and not ChatGPT?
So I've chosen Claude, and they both have their strong suits and shortcomings. I chose Claude because it's more human-like. It's more conversational in nature, and also you can give it prompts longer than any other free tool right now, like 75,000 words or something like that. Whereas the others can max out at like, thousands. Um, and just the more the conversationalistic, aspects of it. It's just more fun for me to use. It is free, but it does have limits. Um, but since it's not as popular as ChatGPT, there's not nearly as many, plugins and things like that. So it's not going to be able to search, web links for you. A lot of the things that ChatGPT can do. So
I really like it because you see that little attachment button. You can attach up to 10 megabytes for each file at 5 max. It's really powerful at reading PDFs and summarizing them, using them as extra knowledge for its prompts. I really encourage anyone who's exploring using AI LLMs for free, because the paid tier of ChatGPT has access to a lot of plugins that make it really powerful. But if we're talking about free tools, I really suggest you try Claude, even though we'll be crowding this well-kept secret. But try Claude, you will notice the difference.
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to just give a quick walkthrough of how I would go about using Claude to help me build out a website knowledge base. And again, it's not meant to do 100% of the work for you, right? If that's why you're going to use this this tool, that's the wrong way to go about it. It's best to assume that you need either content up front that you're going to give it and it's going to summarize and break it down for you, or knowing that you're going to ask it to do something, it's going to take you 50, 60, maybe 80% of the way, and you're going to take it from there. It's not at a point where it's going to say make a blog post and it's going to do the whole blog post and you're not going to be able to do anything. You're not going to have to do anything with it. So
to clarify, this is not only for Claude. This is for all LLMs out there.
Right.
Taking the result as is and posting it is really not beneficial for anyone. Not for you, not for your customers, and definitely not for the whole ecosystem that's now being flooded with AI-generated fluff, for lack of a better word.
That's the right word. So like any shiny new object, there's people, touting the ability to create so many articles and this and that, and it's easy for many to see when it's AI and when it's not. Google and the other search engines are going to take steps to weed that stuff out. So yeah, like anything else, use it with the right intention, learn to use it effectively, and it's going to be really good for you. So I usually like to start by confirming how Claude sees what I'm asking about. Again, even though it's all powerful, all knowing, I can't assume that we see things the same way or that I understand things the same way he does. Again, the curse of knowledge applies even here. So I'm going to start by confirming the topic at hand. And for this example, I'm going to build out, a helpful website glossary and knowledge base related to analytical X-ray industry. So, hey Claude, what do you know about analytical X-ray instrumentation for materials analysis and characterization. And I've not tested this prior to this, so we'll see how it goes, but he's been pretty good for me so far. And it's got a nice chat interface, which, ChatGPT was first to market with that, I think. And, everybody followed suit because it's nice. And, actually search engines like Google are going to have this kind of experience at the top of your search now. Not now, but, coming soon. And then results like they used to have on the bottom.
It's already here.
Right?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay. Yep. And that makes sense because I found myself switching to Claude when I would want to ask a question about something, just because I knew I'd be able to have the conversational experience. I'd be able to take it to the next, question and the next question. So he answers, here are a few key things to know about analytical X-ray instrumentation for materials analysis and characterization.
This is an opportunity for us to re-emphasize that if you don't know your subject matter, AI can lead you to places that are not fun. Us as humans who are prompting this AI need to be able to read the content and confirm that this content is correct, or else it's like the blind leading the blind, right?
Right. Yep. So definitely the deeper you want to go on something, and statistics is an easy place for it to get tripped up. Always look for citations and where to get the information from. That's where you have to be mindful of the kind of content you want out of it, because obviously if you have to rewrite the whole thing and that wasn't your intention, then it might be a waste of time for you. But a lot of the ideation it can provide, even if you do have to rewrite it, it's helped me find gaps in my understanding, helps me with flow, structure, all that stuff. So we've got X-rays can be used to analyze the structure and composition of materials non-destructively. Good start. X-ray diffraction, X-ray spectroscopy, X-ray imaging. So right away, for me, this is exactly what I wanted to see, that he's going to hone in on these technology, types and techniques. But also right away, Selim, do you know the difference between X-ray diffraction and X-ray spectroscopy?
I have not had the honor to work with these technologies, so no, I do not know the difference.
So right away, we're seeing terms that most people probably don't know. And these are the kinds of terms that I anticipate once I ask him for the glossary, he's gonna explain things like these. And, a common understanding is that, our customers are from this space. Why do we need to define these things? Right? They know these things. Well, your customers also have to hire people. And sometimes those people aren't from the space. So if you can provide a place for definitions and trusted understanding of the topic, now they can use your website to help train, their new people. And that's another way to give value to somebody who might not be buying an instrument right now. It's often a great way to put yourself in front of competitive users. And he actually starts to, describe some of these things here in the rest of his bullet points. So I'm going to fine tooth comb all this, but he did good enough for me. So now, since I'm going to ask him to create a knowledge base, I'm going to make sure we're aligned in the understanding of what that is. So I'm going to ask first, I always like to say thanks. And not only do I want to be nice to the robots, it's also helpful to confirm that their answer is what you were looking for so that they know to keep drawing on it later.
And
Thank
also, so
God.
you're not the first one to go when the robots have their
Right.
uprising.
Yeah. When they uprise in like 6 months. Hopefully I'll be on the good side by then.
I
Thanks,
know I'm
Claude. It
not.
looks great. um, let's see. Most of the time when I'm talking about marketing stuff, it's like a concept or a framework. So, do you understand the concept of a helpful website glossary and knowledge base for buyers and customers? Sometimes I'll play around with how prescriptive I get, because I don't want to give them too much tunnel vision, right? And I'm interested in what I might not know about for the concept.
What are
Yes,
your
I
thoughts
understand.
about like everybody posting 10 prompts to do X, or people asking like, "Hey, give us your best prompts." Like, getting to the point where we're stuck on specific prompts that don't give us the opportunity to have a conversation that can open up new avenues, like you just said. Like,
Everybody wants an easy button, right?
and in fact,
And
ChatSpot for HubSpot is going that route of growing a library of ready-made prompts, which slowly is turning a chat interface into another, you know, normal website interface.
right. Well, I mean, there's a really good tool called AI PRM for ChatGPT that's supposed to be developed for Claude at some point. And you know, there's definitely value in not doing and not having to do the work that somebody has already done before and already figured it out. Um, but just don't let it take the place of your own learning, because I've even used those kind of prompts, and it's like what I've experimented with is using those prompts like exclusively, and then using no prompts and trying to build up to that. And not everybody has time to do that, but really, it's especially when the prompts are complex and you weren't there to make it, like, that's where you got to be careful of is something missing, from the information? Is there misinformation because of the way that the prompt was generated, right? Um, like I said, it's easy to put too many guardrails or close down the lane too much. And for me, that's been powerful to work with the information that it's giving me. Most of the time, I only know like the first couple prompts I'm going to give it. And then from there, you know, uh, using some creativity to work with what it's giving you has been a lot of fun for me. It's more instantaneous gratification than I could have imagined. Since I can get in my head and be a deep thinker, having just this mechanism to bounce ideas off of has been super powerful for me. So he's telling us here he understands the concept. Here are a few key ways it can benefit visitors, right? And this is what I love, and maybe some of the other ones do it, but I noticed this about Claude right away. So I say, the question is, do you understand the concept of a helpful website glossary knowledge base for buyers and customers? He says, yes, I understand it. And here are a few key ways it can benefit visitors. So the way it adds on to the answer. Like instead of just saying, yes, glossary and knowledge base is something that defines key terms and jargon, provides background information, answers common questions, promotes self-service. Like he goes into detail, and it's helpful for me because it explains things in new ways usually that I haven't heard of, while also confirming, his understanding of the subject matter. So looking pretty good. And again, it's just points out all the reasons that you should have one on your website, builds trust and credibility. Some of this is table stakes. Every little bit helps. And if it can help answer their question in the moment, it's +1 on the trust instead of, -1 on the credibility, because you're not addressing a topic that every other competitor is. So in summary, an effective buyer customer glossary knowledge base empowers visitors with information to understand products better, self-serve for questions, and ultimately drive higher quality buying decisions and improved customer experience. I think we should just, bring this guy on the team, Selim. Just have him on the episode every time. Looks like he knows what he's talking about. So now that he's confirmed both what I want to create and the topic that we're talking about, I've got a prompt prepared here. And while I prepared the prompts, I have not. What's interesting is that even if I had tested this a little bit beforehand, there's no guarantee that I'd get the same answers. Because these do not have long-term memory, at least the free versions. There are tools out there that are allowing you to build up, your own database of information. But in this case, unless you're in the same chat, like he can reference earlier in the chat. But as you move across chats, he will not remember what are in those chats. Even if he tells you he will, don't believe him. Like he can't do it. And even the longer the chat gets, the less he can remember from the beginning of the chat. So it's always good to confirm as you go. So I'd like you to draft a helpful website glossary and knowledge base for buyers and customers who may need analytical X-ray instrumentation for materials analysis and characterization. Write the definitions and explanations from the perspective of an instrument manufacturer. Be sure to include entries for commonly used acronyms like XRF. And don't forget to say thanks. That was perfect.
Now we're watching this live.
Yeah.
Here goes nothing.
Here's a draft glossary. And again, like, this is a higher level thing that I would trust this tool with, because again, what is it accessing? It's accessing the internet. There are lots of glossaries that exist, but usually
to be clear, it's accessing a version of the internet, a snapshot of the internet. Yes.
Yep. The updates that you hear about, usually that's what's one of the things that's being updated. Like I think Claude updated in middle of July, and it went up to April of this year or something like that for, the snapshot in time. So here's a draft glossary and knowledge base. One of the issues I have had with Claude is getting him to be expansive and give me lots of words, right? He's comes at it from a place of being concise when possible. So I it's easy to not get a lot, right? So we just started out with some terms: X-ray diffraction, X-ray fluorescence, X-ray photoelectronic spectroscopy. So,
I believe here we have two choices: either ask them for more or ask them to expand on the existing, right?
Right. Yep. So let us know if you need any part of the glossary expanded on. We're also happy to provide guidance on selecting the X-ray instrumentation that best fits your materials. That sounds like it's almost pulling directly from one of the manufacturing websites,
Yes.
which is also something to keep an eye on. Right.
There's been a lot of cases where it pulls verbatim, not Claude specifically, but in general, LLMs, and people just run with it. And just be careful. Don't post your competitor's copy.
Exactly.
As is.
Let's have them expand. That looks great. Can you give me another set of definitions of defined terms different from this first of terms? I think that's one of the keys of learning how to use these tools is understanding when to be specific and when not to be specific. How much room you can give it. Because if I hadn't highlighted, I felt that if I didn't get specific with different than this group of terms, then it could have given me new definitions or different definitions for the same terms that I got the first time.
Yep.
Right. So, so I did get second set of terms here. So let me know if you need any of these defined terms expanded further. Happy to provide more details on our instrumentation options suitable for each analytical technique as well. Now, this is where I like to take it, I'll key on something he says just to see, right? Like, this is interesting. We're also happy to provide guidance on selecting the X-ray instrumentation that best fits your materials characterization needs, even if that is verbatim. I'm going to ask him to do this for me. Because that's what this is supposed to be. Like, he's supposed to be giving me information that, is helpful to me as the user. So let's see what he says. Thanks, Claude. You mentioned earlier, I always like to use exact, quotes from his earlier answers. That way it's very clear what we're asking him to do or what we're referencing. Mentioned earlier. Let's see. Can you tell me? Can you provide this guidance? No. Absolutely. Here's some tips on selecting the right X-ray instrumentation for your material analysis needs. So not only can it help you, do the thing that you're asking it to do, or the original goal, it often gives me ideas like as it does that. And, you know, um, for somebody who might not have a documented sales process or documentation around, you know, um, how to buy, or even for the sales guys, what questions to ask a new sales guy. Like these are all questions that I know sales teams ask to understand what the need is, right? And you'll find things like this, like this will guide you, this will guide which X-ray techniques are most suitable. Um, and you know, again, it's a start. And so when you think about how this stuff can be used, it's definitely more than just marketing content. And there's actually, you know, one of the hits against using it for marketing content is that you can't replace the humanity, you know, that you should have in content. But it's been shown and proven that knowledge bases and glossaries and how-tos need to be very black and white and should not have a lot of quote unquote humanity in them necessarily. So if there's anything a robot should be able to do, it's to get you a long way down the path of a knowledge base. You know, and maybe to finish this off, just to see like one of the other things, like, okay, so next time maybe we're going to hand this off to somebody, you know, maybe I'm a service leader and now I have to hand this off to, you know, the service admin who I want to finish this. All right, it's going on the right track. So, you know, let me get this. Thank you, Claude. Can you provide me with a list of other terms without definitions that should also be included in our website knowledge base. And let's see what happens here. There we go. So again, at a very high level look, these are all like relevant terms. And so multiple ways that you can, you know, mix and match formatting, content, you know, get the party started, if you will. Now, you know, somebody else that's using an AI tool, could be Claude, could be another one. You just say, hey, I need you to create a glossary of these terms. And now you just copy paste, hey, I need definitions for all these terms. Right. So multiple ways you can get these things to work for you. And this is the kind of admin stuff that I think once people realize what they can do with the tool, and now adding valuable content to the website, which is thought to be a long, arduous process because I got to write articles and I got to proof it and we got to draft it and review it over and over. Like, this is a different class, and this is a way to bring value in a short period of time.
So let's get practical. In an organization, in most industrial organizations, there are systems of checks and balances, mostly from the technical teams, around content like this. How can we bridge the gap between an organization that wants the technical team involved, but also does not want to avail them to be able to be involved in these processes. So, would it be a good idea to take this list that's already here, give it to the technical team for vetting? We get a quick approval on this list. We feed it back to the AI. We get the content drafted. And instead of the technical team going through the process of thinking about what needs a definition and putting the time to drafting the content, they can instead do a quick overview and edit something they want to edit, and we're out the door. We have made a glossary that the technical team has reviewed without having the technical team write it from scratch. Is that reasonable?
It should be.
Is there a reason why every single industry cannot do this?
No, I mean, especially if you don't have, marketers or content people or even a service team. At some point, there's an expert in your organization that I guarantee you has been wanting to do this for a long time. Make it easier to answer questions that they don't like answering, that they feel that they shouldn't have to answer, right? If only we had a place on our website where people could get the information themselves. Well, now, like, the excuses are almost gone, because the amount of time it takes to create this list, throw it in front of the subject matter expert, confirm, hey, are these definitions that would relate to, our products and the value that we provide customers? Yep. All right, we're going to make glossary, throw it in the AI tool, make the glossary, next review session. Hey, anything ridiculous here, right? It can be done, and there's no reason, we should find many more websites without knowledge bases and glossaries. But again, I think understanding the need for a glossary would be a healthy first step for a lot of these companies.
In fact, we also shouldn't forget to run this list by sales and customer service.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, thank you, Chris. That was really, really helpful. In fact, all these conversations around LinkedIn about, the scarecrow of AI. AI is coming for everybody's jobs. In fact, this should show you that successful AI still needs a guiding hand from an expert, a human expert, to be able to deliver the right results you want. Thinking that AI is going to take your job today, that's not going to happen. But an expert that knows how to use AI to get ahead, that is a more realistic threat. So it'd be a good idea for you to do the same. Get familiar with AI. Get familiar with its shortcomings, especially hallucinations and its tendencies to pull from existing pieces of the internet, and learn how to instead use its strength and leverage its strength, where it can process a huge amount of data quickly, faster than any human can. So relegate it to tasks that make your life easier and help you focus on the human element, right?
Yes. And we should add a small disclaimer for some, a large disclaimer for others. These are public language learning models. Do not give it proprietary information if you don't want it in the public domain.
Some Samsung employee learned this a hard way. Did you know that?
I had not heard that. Let's hit
Some
me with that.
Samsung roadmap products got leaked because somebody used AI to prepare a presentation about them.
Yeah, there's so much we don't know about what's about to happen with these models. Um, and there are ways to create your own for your business, but then you gotta you know I think I've heard that it's more energy intensive than Bitcoin mining, right?
Yeah.
Um, so this is like, you
If you have
thought you
any
could,
sustainability initiatives, that's not the right way to go.
right? So all your work to just transition to the cloud, like now you need like now you might need a bunch of on-prem stuff just to
Yeah.
handle your own LLM.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so there's you know the legal tons of legal questions around this as far as understanding how it's getting the content and how it's presented and when is it you know copyrightable related to image use, and there's so many things that are being understood. So again, just learn about it, understand what it does, what it doesn't do, what you can use it for, what you should use it for, what you shouldn't use it for, um, and you know figure out where it can be used to help you and use it for that. um, but that disclaimer and that example highlights the need. Once if you start using the tool, two things. If you start using the tool, you need a policy around using the tool, just like most of the other policies that you probably have around using cloud-based systems, browsers, browsing, all that stuff. But number two,
If you're a company that is big enough to have a legal team, talk to legal.
yeah, and if in that case you probably already have a policy too. Um, but number two, if you yourself as a leader or somebody from the leadership team or even the manager of a team, you might not be interested in this, but you have a staff that lives in the real world that is hearing about this stuff all the time. And just because there's no policy doesn't mean they aren't using it. So again, understand that these tools exist. And just like somebody can go use Google to help find an article for a presentation, they can now use AI very, very easily. So it's best not to, put your head in the sand on this. Educate your teams on it, and put that policy in place so that they can use the tool effectively.
All right. Well, enough AI.
Yeah, I'm done.
Let us talk about what I'm doing here. You said tier 4. Tier 4 means steel. And right now, I am figuring out how to build my first steel foundry. Because any steel construction right now, I've been doing by hand. So at first, so steel needs coal and iron. And I had found my iron deposits close to where I started generating power. So now I'm diverting some of the coal that's made for generating power, since I have an overflow of 200%. Now we're going to pull those into this this new steel factory.
Awesome. Moving on up. I actually did ask AI to
help you in this game.
No, to help me explain the analogous concepts of the game with marketing.
Yeah,
Can I share that with you?
of course.
All right. So the
Right now
players,
we're still seeing the old prompt from material inspection. Or you do
right?
just want to share it out loud?
I'm just going to share it out loud, and you
All
can
right,
see
cool.
if it's accurate. That way, we get to keep watching you build your steel plant. So it says, here's how I would explain marketing using Satisfactory as an analogy. The players are like a business trying to manufacture products efficiently. The resources they collect are like the customer data and market research they gather. Exploring and setting up mining outposts is like doing market analysis to understand customer needs. Building conveyor belts is like establishing marketing distribution channels to deliver your product or service to customers. Constructing assemblers and manufacturers is like developing products and services that meet your customer needs. Optimizing the factory layout is like fine-tuning your marketing mix, product, pricing, promotion, and placement, the 4Ps. Expanding production lines is like growing your business by entering new markets. Unlocking new recipes and technologies is like innovating to improve your offerings. Monitoring production and solving bottlenecks is like measuring marketing KPIs and improving ineffective marketing strategies. Providing power is like powering all marketing efforts with budget and funding. Overall, the goal of efficiently automating production of advanced items in Satisfactory is analogous to the goal of marketing: to understand customers, create value, deliver it effectively, and grow business value. The player's factory is their marketing machine. Come on. So good.
Slap an AI voice generator, and you don't need me as a co-host.
Right? This is an
Yeah.
example of the fun stuff that you can do. I'm always coming up with things like, oh, it'd be cool if this, then that. Now you can just throw it into the AI and see what happens.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
All right. Let's talk about some developing topics, such as have you ever heard of the Flow and Lavenderland?
I have.
Can you tell me what you know about them?
I know that they are new media streaming. They're a place to go for content types that we are used to getting outside of the business world. So, streaming shows that in a way that you can get on Netflix, except they are, specifically targeted for B2B, I think, with like how-tos and, some fun, entertaining stuff, some strategic stuff, just packaged in a new way, to be delivered like we're used to being, delivered at home with Amazon Prime and Netflix and Disney Plus, all that stuff.
So people listening to us are like, what is a streaming service for B2B? That's a novel concept that, around 2 weeks ago, end of July, two SaaS companies launched what they called a B2B content streaming service. Instead of the typical flagship show that marketing strategies usually revolve around, like this one, they opted for a large portfolio of smaller shows. And these shows, some of which we have seen before, like The World's Worst Marketer. You're familiar with that one?
Mm-hmm.
Or series like Lavender Joe, which were a content marketing initiative by Lavender that got repurposed into a show. So shows like these, as well as new shows that were developed specifically for these platforms. And we're also seeing something interesting, that there are some new SaaS products that are starting to come up that are purely built to support something like this. They help you build a media consumption interface that is identical to streaming service such as Netflix and Hulu. And with attribution software similar to what Hockey Stack is building, this tactic is starting to seem less crazy. And I like hearing it from the man himself, Abaid, who's the head of content at Hockey Stack, the company that started The Flow. And he talks about specifically the content marketing concepts that we've been working with for the past 5-10 years. So he says, we all agree that content is a major driver of growth and consistently creating it is necessary. We agree, right? So the logical step is to go and create content. Okay. But we have so many purposes to accomplish. People need to learn about our product. They need to learn how it works, how it helps, etc. Okay, so you create content based on each of these targets. And you create an academy, you create case studies, other resources. Cool. All right, but they also need to know how they can achieve outcomes that we're marketing in the first place. They need to know what changes this product helps them adapt to. Okay, you'll craft a strategic narrative that ties all these pieces of content together and deliver that narrative with a unique point of view through different forms of content. Okay. Then he goes on to say, we need to build admiration for our brand as a way to stay top of mind, and we can't do that by talking about our product or narrative all the time. And I would like to pause here and say, this is where we usually lose the industrial audience. Because for them, that's the value. People who are looking to buy the product need to learn about the product. That's the content that needs to be created. So let's follow
our product. Get out of here.
Yeah. So let's see where he's taking us. He says, okay, so let's create entertaining content and make it relevant to our audience and their interests. But the whole reason we need to stay on top of mind is so they think of us when they are ready to buy. So we can't be entertaining for the sake of being entertaining. But we also can't just put our products in front of their faces. Okay, so let's create memorable content. And I would like to say that that's an interesting concept that I would like to discuss. Memorable content. I would like to say that most of the industrial content that I've been exposed to the last 10 years, I can't remember a single piece. Most of it is transactional. Most of it is fulfilling the need that has been created for. And just you don't remember anything ever again about it. Okay, so we'll create memorable content, and that also associates our product with certain outcomes in their minds by using creative concepts to depict those outcomes. Okay, so our goal is to achieve a balance of product, narrative, and entertaining content. Cool. But we need to make sure the people we're creating this content for see all of this content. And also to stop here, our recent strategies have been to distribute it through social. But the fickle nature of social media algorithms puts us in a dilemma of are they seeing the right pieces? Are they seeing, let's say we have a series, are they seeing 1, 3, and 5? Are they seeing 3 before 1? We don't control how people are getting these posts delivered. We're at the mercy of these algorithms. So he's saying we need to make sure the people we're creating this content for see all of this content. Cool. Let's distribute it on social media platforms they spend time on through organic and paid efforts. We can start with 1 or 2 platforms we already have a presence on, then expand from there. And this is what I just talked about, leveraging social media. But then he comes to the point where I just said, like, you're not in control of how people are watching this. So the next step in this process is housing all of this content in one place that you own, where you control the experience. That sounds awfully like a streaming platform. So I know it was a long process, but now creating a streaming platform does not sound so crazy. And to be clear, we all understand that this is a page on the website that has video content. The concept is not unheard of, but the positioning is what is new. It's always been, check out our video tab on our website, our video page, right? But this is the first time it's being positioned as a streaming platform, because there are expectations from your personal life, from your personal consumption of media, what a streaming platform is, and that's how they're positioning it. So I have to say, I'm excited for what this brings, because not only does it make sense as far as the buyer's journey that we advocate for, but this also means that there are new budgets that are going to be allocated to content marketing and developing these platforms, and more marketers are going to be able to engage in these activities and start to learn the other side of marketing and not be stuck in traditional outbound push tactics that have been given down from generation to generation in the industrial space. You're muted.
One can dream.
Yeah.
It is another method of delivery, another way of packaging. I do hope this will also combat the idea that, people can only handle 1-minute videos, or, attention span of a goldfish. That's correct until you have their attention, which in the case of the streaming services that you know and love, it's clear that people will binge content that they love, that they like, even, that they get value out of. All right. So again, we're back to the challenge of creating the content, creating the videos. But hopefully platforms and the tools that are becoming available, help with the understanding of that this is more possible than you think it is. Get to work in creating the content, right?
In fact, I might be cropping too small here, but like I'm showing Lavenderland, and it's exactly like what you expect from a Netflix style interface. Exciting stuff. So Chris, how are you feeling?
I mean, it's the next step, right? And if we are asking people to think like media companies, to have the media company mindset, this is where media companies are right now. Streaming stuff creating streaming experiences. You're not limited to YouTube anymore. If you want a compelling experience where people can get all the content, there's tools available, and there's a specific platform supporting these, right?
Yeah. The platform that is supporting Lavender Land is called Audience Plus, and they've been doing a great job at creating an out of the box, tool set for marketers to not be busy about the technical aspects of building a streaming platform, but focus on filling it with the right content that the customers want to see. Both useful and memorable at the same time. Can't forget to have fun sometimes.
Yeah. No, I think it's like taking Learning Center to the next level, and just changing like you said, the positioning a little bit. Like, instead of clicking on things one by one, eventually it'll start to serve up the content it thinks you want. Again, trying to mimic that at-home experience, or at work for some people, that you're used to getting as an individual. And now knowing that you're still a human being and still appreciate content experiences like that, with an option to do this on your own business website.
How about we change the tune and go to our next segment, what I've been calling Fresh Off the Production Line. Title, A Work in Progress. Love some feedback, but let's get right to it. Our first post comes from Trenton Romp. He's the head of demand generation at Equals. And a lot of our network is familiar with Chris Walker. And this post is coming at Chris Walker directly and challenging him in public, albeit in a way that's, in my personal opinion, not very successful. But I digress. So Trenton is talking about a concept called self-reported attribution. Anyone familiar with Chris's work, Chris Walker, not Carolyn, knows that he's a champion of self-reported attribution on a website's form. And what it looks like is an open text field that is a required field on your form that asks people, how did you hear about us? And the point of this tactic is to surface some insights that would not be possible with other either automatic attribution tools or other forms of questions such as, drop-down lists to make sure that you don't get garbage data. So Trenton is posing 4 challenges to Chris about this methodology. His first challenge is the open text gives the opportunity for garbage or troll entries. And Chris has responded in a comment down below. He says, testing is the answer. Junk entries might be a symptom of issues farther up the demand gen pipeline. And I find this answer interesting because he's basically saying, if you're getting junk entries, then you're doing demand gen wrong. And I believe it's true. People will not be coming to your website to fill out a form and are willing to put in junk entries if they were the right people that you were seeking to attract. And I'll ask your opinion towards the end. His second challenge is making it required might be quote unquote painful for people to convert. And Chris's reply is, Basically, this only brings valuable information if every form fill has a data point for it. If we don't have a full set of data points, then this might give us the wrong conclusions. Their challenge is who to trust. Do we trust this, or do we trust our tracking software and UTM links? Well, he says you should do both, because this is telling you what created the demand, and the tracking software is telling you what captured the demand. And the last challenge is, will drop-downs influence the answer and skew the data? Yes, that's obvious. It limits the quality and usefulness of the data generated. Putting efforts instead into building automations to normalize the data after the fact is the right way to go. It's a simple concept, but it needs trust to be able to implement it. What has been your experience in trying to implement self-reported attribution, like as far as buy-in and execution?
Honestly, buy-in hasn't been very hard. Just because it makes a lot of sense, I think, and it's pretty easy to explain. I think most of the times trouble with buy-in comes from marketers that are used to marketing principles, let's say, that have been in place for a long time. Like, oh, we can't add another form field because that'll, reduce. We did some super cool study 5 years ago that said like one less form field will up the conversions, etc. But usually I'm trying to get the buy-in of an SME of some sort to do it, and they get it pretty quickly. What's interesting is, like he says, you get what looks to be junk data at first. Google, online, internet, things that, if you're implementing this, that means you probably know about LinkedIn and Chris Walker and the whole thing. So when you implement it and then you don't see LinkedIn or the dark funnel or all these other things, it's not because you're doing it wrong from the field perspective. It's because you're not there at those places creating demand, right? And part of his response is you're seeing those responses of Google because you're not creating demand at all. You're capturing demand. So the first time they saw you was on Google. And that should be very insightful and is not junk data at all, because that tells you if you think you're creating demand, you're not. I'll say that's number one. But number two, marketers can also get very excited about new things, new tools available to them, especially outside of like software. Like, this is where we get in trouble as industrial marketers. We say, oh, SaaS is using this thing. It looks awesome. I'm going to start using it. And then your industry doesn't know what the hell that thing is or how to use that form. Or like, Mary Keogh said just the other day, like, she loves putting long form text in those "how did you hear about us" boxes, right? Well, some industrial dude in the field, he's going to put the shortest thing like that comes to mind in there, right?
In fact, that comes back to marketing to marketers. Mary Keogh is a marketer and understands that if you're implementing this tactic, means you want all the insight you can get, and she's happy to give it because she's empathetic to the process. But yeah, like, industrial guy on the field is going to be like internet, Google, or John told me about it.
Right. Unless you provided real value and impacted his day, right? Then he might tell you. But so there's lots of factors, and one thing from my experience, like when COVID first happened, all of a sudden all these manufacturers said, "Oh, we can do virtual demos." It's like, well, that doesn't mean the customer knows how to do a virtual demo. Doesn't mean I actually helped people like plug in webcams, like so they could have a virtual demo with me, and they're willing to do it, right? But
Yeah.
they don't know. So if you go in expecting that people know how to turn cameras, like just all this stuff, you got to teach. It can be helpful, and that's value that the marketers themselves can provide. Like it doesn't hurt to talk about new marketing things for your industry, new ways of doing things, because you're also teaching, your sales team why this field is important. You're teaching other stakeholders, you're teaching customers, you're making it clear that you want this information and why you want it. So maybe next time they use the form, they will give you a better answer. Right? I think that's missed. You just throw these things out there, and expect people to start using it as intended. And it doesn't work that way. Third, I just noticed, checking out this post again, I didn't see all the comments that, ensued. And there's this one comment that says, Chris Walker, unfortunately, the custom built CMS our client uses does not currently have the ability for a free field. So we're switching up the drop down, and it's like, how many times have
That
we
pains me to
seen
hear.
some kind of like just customized piece of platform in an old school company that prides itself on building all its own stuff, and just now you can't even, you love the idea, but now you can't even implement it because you're not using systems built for 2023. Yeah, it's building systems built for 2010 sometimes. And this
Yeah.
is where like the systems you use and the flexibility and the agility and the modernization of your systems is so important. So important.
Yeah. Wow. It really pains me to know that in 2023 there are custom built CMSs that don't have open text field. That's just
Yeah, I'm not even gonna dig down
we're
that
biased,
rabbit
but
hole.
like HubSpot CMS go or even just HubSpot WordPress plugin, just anything, just anyway.
Yeah, you don't even need CMS. Like the landing pages that you get with free HubSpot,
Yeah.
like can do stuff like that for you. Like, come on.
But yeah. Anyway, I just thought this was an interesting jumping off point to talk about self-reported attribution. But my next highlight is from Brant Weiderholt. This post might not look too conspicuous, but when I explain what's going on here, you'll understand why I included this post. So, last episode, I issued a challenge to industrial leaders that told them they have budgets to make a pillar piece of content to repurpose, but they're wasting it. They're wasting that budget on low impact initiatives like trade shows. So I really wanted to highlight this post because Brant is a perfect example of doing an amazing job with what little resources you have. Brant is the CEO of Agile Automation. It's an industrial automation solution provider and service company. Their employee count fits on a single hand. However, that hasn't stopped Brant from doing the right thing. He called his president, invited him on a call, told his fellow industrial automation owner, and it's like, hey, let's talk shop. once a week and record it. And if you've been following him, most conversations include something they are showing on the screen, but it's never a 20-minute presentation. It's usually a visual aid to help the conversation. And recently, Brandt started inviting other industrial automation experts in the industry and sharing their expertise on his new platform. And he's raising the whole industry and educating his customers in the process. And he's been very diligent in posting clips of these conversations. And I have to say, the engagement is amazing. This post has 33 comments and 14 reposts. There are 14 people that have found this clip so good, including me, that reshared it to their feed, to their feed. So, like, if Brandt can do it, what is stopping companies that are better resourced than Brandt from doing this? I have an idea. I'd love to hear your take. Look at him. Like, he's doing great.
I know. And the engagement, like we talked about it last time, like you can't buy. It's so hard to buy this level of engagement.
Yeah.
Like 33 comments, 14 reposts. And that's what I think is hard to understand. There's so many different ways to benefit from.
And I would like to highlight the comments, because the comments are not just fluff comments like great post, minus mine, of course. Like, this is direct subject matter expertise questions. Like, people are discussing and learning from this content. They're asking about his process. These awfully sound like sales conversations, don't you think?
Definitely.
What type of signals are being input? Like, these are questions that potential customers are asking you or are looking for in a website, or picking up the phone or sending you an email saying like, hey, what do you do this? Do you do that? See, great, Brent. What happened when no PLC? Like, more questions lead to more content, lead to more questions to more content. And now you're not only generating engagement, but you're generating content that can be cleaned up and packaged into written content that guides your customers. Now you have content for search. Now you have content for newsletters. Now you have content for so on and so forth. All he has to do is sit down once a week, record for an hour, and then send the footage to an editor. Everyone knows that you go on Upwork and Fiverr and you can find somebody to cut up your clips for really affordable. But I digress.
Again, running out of excuses not to be doing this stuff. People are on LinkedIn. If you put up valuable content, might not happen immediately, but it doesn't take much. One or two people start to engage. You know, if you are doing valuable stuff, you know, it's not hard, because people are on LinkedIn to learn and to network, and they're not afraid to engage with posts. As soon as they do, they raise their hand and say, hey, I'm open to a conversation here. Like, that's why I'm engaging with your post. So engage me.
And not just engaging, they're posting poignant questions that usually lead to a more serious conversation in background. That leads to sale.
I'm sure some of these, I'm sure some of these went, you know, offline or into DMs, right? And as a, you know, the person running the video, or the SMEs, you know, and there's always a balance to strike, but from the same angle of I want to provide value to the audience. Like, if you're not following up, if you're not replying to the comments, if you're not, trying to further the conversation to make sure all their questions are answered, right? Then you're leaving some stuff on the table, and that's a big part of the value. Like, if you could recreate this activity at a trade show, you would do it in a second. It's just a different medium, different format, and by the way, much harder to do at a trade show.
And you get the pay for the privilege of potentially having a keynote piece.
Right. Yeah. This is where it's like at a trade show, and thankfully I haven't paid this much, but in some industries, for a 45-minute speaking slot at at a trade show, it could be $15,000 just to be able to, and then they don't even record it, right? And then there's like 20 people.
You're not allowed to record it
in some cases. Yeah. And then there's like 20 people in the audience. You're putting this on LinkedIn, and we've shown how easy it can be to get impressions. Like, you get over, yeah, maybe we're going to talk about this every week. I don't know, but it's just
like until it sticks, we're going to keep hammering it home.
Right?
Yeah.
No, it's just start making the content.
Our next post comes courtesy of Ashley Lewin, Senior Director of Demand Generation at Refine Labs. This post is about shifting from lead gen to demand gen, and she goes through a 9-phase process. I took the liberty of summarizing this process, but I do find it interesting, and I wanted to talk about it. So for Ashley, the first phase is research. Gather data on current pipeline, funnel, and paid media to understand the business's current state. Anytime you're thinking about shifting from lead gen to demand gen, you already have a program in place, a lead gen program in place. And the only reason why you would want to shift from it if it's not working. If you believe it's not working, but other people don't, then you have to show them. And this is kind of the first half of this process. So researching current state, that's phase 1. Phase 2 is planning. You have to create a marketing plan with short and long-term recommendations for a shifting strategy. Everybody knows that leaders don't like uncertainty. And by creating this marketing plan, you make them more comfortable that they're knowing what can potentially be coming down the line. Next step is MVP launch, minimum viable product. Basically, you test tactics from this marketing plan in a small way to show potential impact. And once you show this potential impact on a small sample size, then now you're ready to pitch. You present the data, the problems, the solutions, and recommendations for the stakeholders for buy-in. Once you get the buy-in, you scale back on lead gen, and you start ramping up demand gen. The next is goal change. You update your goals to better reflect demand generation instead of lead generation. And then you turn off lead gen completely. Next is amplification, which is expanding on what's working with the new strategy to amplify performance. And the last phase is evaluation, which is to frequently evaluate the strategy's impact and create new recommendations. And that is the cycle of doing more, evaluating, either doubling down or tweaking and then doing more, evaluating till the end. But there's a great framework, but I have to say, Refine Labs is not a stranger to challenge. They have been challenging the status quo ever since their founder, Chris Walker, started engaging on LinkedIn in early 2019. But that approach has some implicit buy-in that the team is able to spend some of the marketing resources to do this exploration in the first place. So I find that there is a piece missing. Phase 0 is how to get buy-in to do all of this in the first place. We've both faced similar challenges in the past trying to do a similar shift, and I'm wondering if you'd like to share some of these experiences. I know I've gotten stuck on phase 0.
Yeah. It's just how much of this stuff is so foreign to this industry. Gathering data on current pipeline. Oh, I would love to do that. Current pipeline and funnel. Like how long does it take to close a sale? Oh, it'd be nice to know when the process even started. And like we talked about earlier, the need to see more data, more evidence that this stuff works. There's, test tactics from the marketing plan in a small way. Like, oh, but it's got to be a statistically significant sample size. Oh, and it's got to be with this specific, person that I think we should be targeting, not whoever you targeted, Selim. Like, how do I trust that data? Just doing and this is so much like product development, right? It should not be a foreign concept to do these exact gates because it's exactly what you do, for product development and product launches and, all the stuff that engineers and scientists are used to doing. They're just not used to doing it in this domain, and lastly, I've seen so many situations where you do the thing and you get good results, but you can't touch the goals, or the goals are ever changing, or the goals aren't clear, or all these things. So even having goals to update and KPIs to align with these things, would be nice. But that is a very important part, because if you can't get that change, then you're always going to be asked to get leads. So just another example, I think, of marketing to marketers.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, a lot of what Chris Walker advocates for is don't judge the marketing efforts in a silo. Judge the whole revenue operation on how effective it is to generate leads. How far-fetched is that in a lot of the industrial organizations that we have been privy to? I've never heard of it.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's a mountain to climb. That's for sure. Can we just lead gen, leads. I'm just getting more and more I'm just not a fan of that word. I think that's a huge part of the problem, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to be rid of it, but it's just leads are human beings, and the more that we try to categorize them as just leads and email addresses, the more that the harder it is to realize that what the differences are between creating leads and creating demand. Demands come from people that buy stuff. Leads come from forms that accept email addresses. Right? Like it's I haven't thought this through all the way, but I'm pretty sure it's a lot harder for a robot to express demand than it is for a robot to give you a lead. Right? So all the spam stuff, that's another thing with creating demand on LinkedIn and other places with content. It's a lot harder to get spammed in those places, you know. Yeah. Until we can stop focusing on lead generation and leads, and start bringing in people, relationships, like it's going to be a tough go.
And I do find some, dare I say, hypocrisy, because a lot of the industrial sales teams rely on that relationship building and humanizing of these people. But then they turn around to the marketing teams and say, where are the leads? So I'm interested in unpacking that at some point with someone who's close to the matter. Maybe we can entice some industrial sales professionals to join us on this conversation and see what they think about it.
Yeah. That would be pretty cool. Be a good conversation.
Yep. In fact, I have a lot of sales engineers in my engineering network. We should start some conversations there. And the last post today is a fun one. It is from Drew Noel. He's the VP of Revenue at SCS Cloud. Vice President of Revenue and Revenue Operations. That's a concept that a lot of industrial leaders don't really seem to understand, and they don't seem to be inclined to try to understand it, because there are sales and there are marketing teams. Why are we trying to put both under one umbrella and start trying to do all of these activities that blend marketing and sales teams together? It's clear. There's a marketing team that generates leads, and there's a sales team that sells. So it's interesting talking about revenue here. Drew is talking to revenue ops people directly. And this post is a bit tough love. He's asking revenue operations teams to stop being annoying and annoyed at the organization. He attempts to give constructive advice to help them progress in their careers. Me and you both know that revenue operations has a reputation of, quote unquote, making people's lives harder and always saying no to suggestions. And I have to admit, during my stint as a marketing operations specialist, there's a lot of conversations that quickly ended with no, because we don't have the resources, or we don't have the technology, or we frankly think it's not a good strategy, and we say the operations don't work. No, we're not going to do it. So I have to admit that I'm guilty of that at some point in my career. But Drew here has some interesting advice. Whining and cynicism can be counterproductive. He asks RevOps to try to have a more positive mindset. And that's advice that I received during my day. Don't treat other teams as less capable. Successful RevOps people balance technical skills with humility and collaboration. It's very easy to say that the leader doesn't understand how the CRM works, and he's asking for something that he doesn't know about. We know better. They should try to avoid that mentality. Also, they should develop business acumen beyond technical specialties like communication, like selling ideas, like enabling others. This makes them more well-rounded. Adopting patience and supporting others helps them evolve into servant leaders who solve problems and uplift organizations. I have to admit, the patience piece is really hard when the solution is staring at us at the face. Staring you in the face. It's tough. And RevOps careers require long-term dedication, but this work is really what builds effective leaders and transforms organizations over time. And this is why it's frustrating when revenue operations gets brought up and people don't understand its importance. The tone of this post seems to is intending to inspire and guide RevOps professional to grow beyond narrow technical roles and embrace leadership mindsets and focus on collaborating, on communicating, on systemically improving their companies. I've been guilty of a lot of this in my previous jobs, especially in marketing ops. So I kind of agree with Drew here. I know you have some things to say about this.
Yeah, it's another tough one because RevOps definitely hasn't made it, not that I could see, into industrial manufacturing spaces yet. At best, it's like business ops or sales ops, or even business ops would be great if that had some kind of coordinated effort. But I think, reliance on ERP systems and just spreadsheets and older way of doing things, siloed departments, all that lends itself to not advancing and understanding how important this role in this department is. And it's a big piece of the transformation. Like he says, these are one of the key departments that it's going to transform the organization. Digital transformation is real. It's a real need. It's a real requirement of doing business moving forward, whether you like it or not. And this is the department that's going to get it done for you. For all these reasons, that whether it's saying no or being introverted or not having empathy, it sounds a lot like the IT departments that I've known in the past. And it's one of the reasons IT is not going to get this done for you. Like, the whole reason for being is to align revenue generating activities with IT systems and infrastructure, with customer data at the center and customer experience as one of the primary outcomes of doing this. Making sure that customer data is available and easy to get to from internal customers and the customer-facing teams so that they can serve, the modern buying and the modern customer experience to modern buyers and modern customers. So it's unfortunate, but also this is where you got to be careful as a RevOps evangelist. As we mentioned earlier, engineers and industrial mindsets are hesitant to change, hesitant to try new things. And if you come at them with a new idea, a new concept, and act like you're better than them, that you know more than them, that's a quick tour out the door. So definitely have to have some empathy, understand the knowledge levels that you're working with, not only about them not knowing about these concepts. It's interesting. They can not know about the concepts. This is where common language becomes important. But they're intelligent people, right? And sometimes, if it is clear enough, and they haven't formed an opinion yet, because it is completely new thing. If you explain it in a common sense way, I've had many colleagues where a lot of the stuff that can be hard to push through, I explain it one time and they get it and they love it. The difficulty becomes when you have to do that throughout the organization, and it always has to be one-on-one communications. It's difficult, but again, that's where RevOps is supposed to play a role, make it easier for internal communications to happen. And it's going to be an important part of organizations moving forward.
I wanted to highlight some recent insight I've seen from a certain developer of RevOps enablement add-ons on a CRM. I'll not clarify who that is, but their take has been diametrically opposite to this. In one of the trainings that they gave, they talked about how revenue operations specialists need to be the warden in this prison, and anyone who does something out of line, to use their own words, you need to use the sniper shot and make an example out of them. And it's very interesting that like a vendor of revenue operations automation is advocating the opposite of empathy, is advocating running a strict, tight ship, if you will. It's very easy to listen to Drew and say, yes, this is definitely the way to go, because as humans, we never want to feel like we're being belittled by another team. Another team is telling us, like, you don't know what you're talking about, let us, quote unquote, do our job. But at the same time, at some point, these need to be revenue generating activities. If we're spending our time in meetings talking about what meetings we need to talk about, what meetings, and never being able to put in motion these activities and start filling that CRM with revenue generating opportunities, we'll never get there. So where does one draw the line? I don't believe I have the answer.
I think the first step is understanding that digital transformation, RevOps, CRMs, automation, well, they can be used to automate the wrong things. It's not intended to automate the relationship building and the relationship management piece. You should be automating every admin activity you can so that you have more time to do sales, to build relationships, to network, to create content, to do all of the things that help you drive more business, help you build more business, and help you close. And that's where the practitioners that are skilled at this are very important. This is not anybody that most of the people in your organization are not trained to do this. It's not another hat that somebody can wear. They don't have time to wear. And it's a very powerful impact when you get this right. And it allows your most valuable people to be doing their most valuable things. But it's a hard transition, for sure. It's a lot farther down the line than spreadsheets, that's for sure.
I think it's we're at almost 2.5 hours. I think it's right time to wrap this up. Thank you, Jeff, for watching. And we'll see you in the next one.
Have a good one.